Welcome to Make a Path Presents. I'm Ronnie Hayes, and today let's talk about The Walking Dead Season 7. Now, this is going to be basically like a full season review now that it is over. I was going to post this video last night, but I definitely wanted to go back and rewatch some other episodes just to kind of formulate my thoughts a little bit better, because this season I'm finding is the trickiest season so far to clarify my feelings for, because there's so much of it that I do really like, yet I have so many different problems with certain episodes. It's so difficult, and I took a little time last night to just finally look at each individual episode. I would play it, I would skim through a little bit, and I would find myself wanting to watch certain parts just based off of the acting, off of the charisma of the actors and what's going on with the characters, and really magnetic scenes, you know? Some scenes and some episodes I really liked when they first aired. In second viewing, I like a whole lot less. I think, I didn't go back and look, someone said I did really like Go-Getters. I gotta go back and look at that review. That one in particular, sadly, I like it a ton less than... I didn't go back and look at my review, so if the person is correct and I absolutely loved it the first time, I don't know, I don't see myself absolutely loving that. I think I did like it, I enjoyed it. I had some problems with it, but in second viewing, I find myself not caring. I want to watch the interaction between Simon and Gregory, and then I just don't care about the rest. I really feel like we could have gotten a different storyline, and this is where the problem is the same. My main problem, and I have one substantial, it's just one main problem, but it's a big problem for all of Season 7. I've said this a number of times. I like the story. I like what they're doing. I like what they're doing with a lot of the characters, except for one in particular that stands out. Carol in particular, I really thought they were going to go somewhere permanent with her direction, and they still can, so I'm not going to judge that yet until we see Season 8, because where we left that character off, she kind of sits down with Morgan, and I got the vibe that it's not over yet. What she's going through is still going to bleed over into Season 8, and I'm hoping we get some dynamic stuff from that. With that being said, I'm just not happy with Carol's story. It feels like they needed to take her out of the story, so they utilized something that I agree with being an authentic piece of her character and of her story, and I've said this for 2 seasons now. A lot of people think that Carol lost her shit recently, and this has been building since Season 4, and a lot of people just don't go back and pay attention to it. Even from Season 3, you can tell there's a conflict there, you know? Carol is a character that had a huge transformation, and a massive part of that transformation actually happened off screen in between Season 2 and 3. Go watch the end of Season 2 and then watch Season 3 again if you haven't watched it in a while. Just watch Rick's speech at the end and Carol's demeanor. Hell, watch the last episode. That's all you need to know about Carol's character. It shows her weakness. Even on the farm, I believe, Daryl has to rescue her. I believe Andrea has to rescue her first, and then Daryl gets her off the farm. Correct me in the comment box down below if I'm mistaken, but you see the weakness in that character, and then you see these strengths in Season 3. And they grow, though. It's not like Terminator Terminus Carol in Season 3. It grows, but you can definitely see in her mind, she's definitely making decisions and coming up with solutions that she wouldn't have done in Season 2 or 1, I feel. Especially telling Andrea she can end this by sleeping with the governor, giving him a great night, and then killing him in his sleep. You know what I mean? That's a very different Carol than Season 1. That might be an authentic part of her character, but I don't feel like she would have acted out or even came up with that or said that. She might have thought that, absolutely. You know, in her situation, she probably thought about doing that to Ed a number of times, just killing him in his sleep and then not getting beat again. So that's what I mean by it's an authentic part of her character, but this friction and this emotional distress within Carol. I think you can clearly see that in season 4 right after she kills Karen and David. This is not a person who kills those people and then she says, oh, ain't nothing to it. She puts on a brave front. We can see that clearly when she tells Rick, yeah, I killed him, so what? And then later on, once she's confronted by that, she starts to break down. And that's when we see from that point on, we start seeing little cracks in her character. And then once Morgan shows up, Morgan he's the last straw to break the camel's back for Carol. And then once we move her story out of the way and we have this Negan story play out, I kind of feel at this point in time, I'm left at the end of the season feeling like that's all they did. They just moved her story aside. They used something authentic, and I agree with the direction they went, but I disagree with how it ended. If she picks up in season 8, and she's just a Terminator, Terminus Carol, and maybe she even changes slightly where she lets people off the hook, like if people surrender and she doesn't just murder them. I don't know, a small subtle change like that to where she's not just a killing machine. Okay, yeah, but I want something more than that. I still want them to develop that part. I don't want her to be permanently healed. So that's one character problem I did have throughout the season. Carol's story just feels like they sidelined her in order to get other stories playing out, you know? And that could be a problem if Carol's a character that should have died a long time ago, and they don't know what to do with her character for the Negan stuff for season 7. Instead of properly killing her like they should have done in the past, which I believe in season 3 they were planning on killing her, since they don't know where she fits, they sideline her and then they bring her back when they know what to do with her. I'm hoping that's not what's happening with Carol. Now, as far as the story, let's get this out of the way. Yeah, my one major problem, there's no way around it, it's the structure. I don't like it. I just don't like the split story structure. I'm going to pull this up just to take a reference off the episode titles. When I'm going back and watching The Well and The Cell and number 1's perfect. I don't think you needed to blend episode 1. Keep us with Rick the whole time. Keep us with the gang in that moment. Those type of, you could call it split, but we're with the main character. We're with the main cast. Even though we're with the main character for Say Yes, I believe that's what, like episode 12 or 13? That's still a split episode because it's just Rick. It's just Michonne. But when I'm watching The Well, The Cell, I like watching the dynamic between Daryl and Dwight. I think that was a great idea to link those two characters together. Kind of little, I'm still iffy on the resolution of that, putting Dwight with Rosita when Daryl and Dwight had such a build-up, but they still have a lot of potential with those two characters. But when I'm going back and rewatching it, I'm hooked on those scenes. The only problem is when I watch Cell, I'm finding myself not wanting to I don't want all that story just globbed in that one episode. I don't want all of The Well globbed into the one episode with the Kingdom coming right after the premiere episode with Negan. I don't want all of that. I feel like season 7 would have been a shit ton better, and the ratings would have even been better had they blended The Well, The Cell. What else could you blend? Swear. You could have blended those 3 episodes. And we're not talking about blending 3 episodes into one episode. And it fries my brain how people don't understand. You're not changing shit. When you say you're blending the episodes, they might definitely write it different. Absolutely, because I don't feel like you would have, I don't feel like you would have had some stuff in the episode had it been blended, you know, because you're padding the episode because you can't leave this area, whoop-de-whoop. But when I say you're blending the episode instead of splitting it, I don't mean you're getting rid of character development. You get the same amount of screen time. You know, in 3 episodes, you get, what, 44 minutes each episode or 42 minutes? You're still getting them. But instead of getting all of Swear in 1 episode, you're getting pieces of Swear in 3 episodes. Same thing with all the others. So anyone who thinks you're going to lose character development, anyone who thinks you're going to lose story time, or you'll have to create new content, that is not at all what we're talking about when you combine them. And if you wanted to combine The Well, The Cell, and Swear. Those are 3 episodes. If you combine them, you would watch all the scenes in a different order, but it would still take up 3 full episodes. Now that that's out of the way, yes, when I go back and look at this, the first half is probably the easiest. The second half is where it gets a little complicated. The first half, I feel like it would definitely be a lot more enjoyable to get small doses of what's going on with everybody with The Well, The Cell, and Swear. And Service, I like Service, but you could do timeline-wise, because keep in mind, The Cell happens before, specifically the stuff in it, so you need it to come before. So depending on if you can tweak some things, The Cell, Go-Getters, Swear, Sing Me a Song, Heart's Still Beating, it gets tricky because what happens at the end of Go-Getters leads into Sing Me a Song. You see what I mean? So you would have to get creative how you would mix those stories together, but you would most likely be able to blend Swear, The Cell, and The Well, and you would have a good amount of different stuff going on. Now, not everyone's going to like that. Not everyone's going to agree with that, and that is absolutely fine. If you enjoy the structure that they got going on now, that is totally cool. But don't say because you enjoy this structure, everyone else should enjoy the structure too. That's just not the case, because think about it, that is hypocritical. If I were to say that everyone should enjoy the same structure I like, I understand. Even though I feel confident that the ratings would have been better, I understand that not everyone would have liked that structure. I don't think the structure would have been a hot topic, because it's such a, I don't think it would have been a common topic, because it's such a normal way of watching TV. Little bits and pieces telling the whole story. All TV shows do it, you know? And yes, there are split episodes in other TV shows. That is a common thing. I just don't think it worked for this season especially. I think it was a mistake. I think they beat this season like they beat Glenn and Abe. They beat us to death with the split story structure. Anyway, the second part, what I mean by it gets a little too complicated, is because you just have a lot going on in different places. Basically, it would get a little tricky. You might need to change a couple scenes, but the overall story will remain the same. Now, at the end of the day, that is my only complaint. I don't dislike the storytelling. I don't dislike what they're doing with the characters. I don't dislike what they're doing with adding stuff to, let's say Ben, for example, Richard, for example. I know I see complaints where it's like, don't build these characters up just to kill them. I agree with the producers. You can't have these stories and push the story and progress it along without adding development, without adding a purpose, without the character development, without building these characters up. Even though it's a character that's only introduced and killed in this same season, it's important to build that up. This is where some fans don't realize it. It's not wasting, and I see this all the time, oh, it's a waste of development for Ben. It's a waste to do all that because Ben was introduced and then he died, yada, yada, yada. It's not about Ben. It's not at all about Ben. And these are the tricky characters, because not every character is treated the same, nor should they be. You can't create a TV show or a movie treating all the characters like Rick Grimes, you know? Ben's story does not, unfortunately, I know some people might disagree with this, but it's not there to primarily affect Ben's character. His character there is to push along and to affect Ezekiel. It's to affect Morgan. It's to affect the main characters that are going to be here and that are here to stay, either for this season, for the next season, for the season after that. And that is their primary purpose, okay? And I know it seems unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. And that's a clever tool to take a minor character, and even though you could become a fan of that character, that character's primary purpose is not even about its own character. It's about Ezekiel's character. It's about Morgan's character. It's about those main characters around it. And how does that push the story? And look, how did that push the story? It got Morgan to snap out of it, or snap back into it. And then it got Ezekiel to get off his ass and realize that they need to fight. They can't keep this peace. There's no way. Before, when I was thinking about this discussion, I was thinking about showing examples how to piece them together, but I don't want to bore you guys to death with that, because it would just be me saying, oh, this and this and blend this and this. You get the idea. If you take next time you rewatch it, if you take the episodes and if you marathon it, it'll probably be easier. Just look at what you can blend together that would tell the story a little bit, tell the story in a coherent way that would be blending the story. So I'll leave that up to you as like a mental exercise, or even if you want to do it for fun, the next time you just so happen to be watching the season. You can definitely absolutely leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment box. I do want to touch on a couple things before we go, though. I do want to touch on Scott Gimple saying Glenn will return for season 8. Everyone on the internet is saying this. All those clickbait articles, they're so full of shit. Scott Gimple just said what he was supposed to say. They asked him if there's any chance, I think it was TV Line, they asked him if there was any chance they would see any more of the Lovebirds, or the Lovebird couple, I think it was called, something like that, about Glenn and Maggie, and Scott Gimple just said that it would be silly to say that was never going to happen. And he's right. That is dumb to say. That's so dumb to say, because anything can happen. If you want to do a flashback, if you want to do a dream sequence, if you want to do anything, it's so stupid to say, or it's silly. He said it perfect. It's silly to say we would never do that, because it's open. It doesn't mean they're definitely doing that. And so many of these articles, I even pulled one up here before, and it's saying like Glenn is returning for season 8. It says it specifically. That is not what Scott Gimple is saying. Scott Gimple is just saying, I'm not going to say it's not possible. That's silly, you know? So we might see Glenn, we might not. Right now I'm like 75%. I don't know how it would fit, but we got a lot going on in season 8, and they might need to structure it to last throughout the entire season. So does that open up the possibility that there's some free time where we can put in a flashback? I would prefer a flashback. I know some people don't want it, but I enjoy it. If it fits, if it makes sense. Maggie has a different haircut now, so that might be a little tricky, but I hate dreams. I fucking hate them. HBO used to do that shit. Matter of fact, I think they still do that shit. And there was a number of times where an entire Sopranos episode was a whole dream sequence. And it was those moments that I wanted to stop. I wanted to be like, listen, I'll never support HBO. That is how bad I hate dream sequences. If they're not short, if they last longer than a few minutes, like 3 minutes, if they last longer than that, they are just an incredible waste of time. You're wasting my damn time, because they don't matter. So I don't want dream sequences. If they do a dream sequence, I would like it to be over and done with rather quickly. Don't sit there and focus on that heavily, not at all. The other thing I want to talk about, season 9 definitely got an official confirmation. Scott Gimple was talking about setting up the story for season 8 and 9 as far as the structure and writing it out. And he did say that specifically about 9. And I think this is definitely a no-brainer. I know a lot of people are waiting for the official confirmation. And there's a lot of fans, and this is why I want to bring this up, there's a lot of fans worried about The Walking Dead going off the air because of the ratings. And that's just not how it works. For a show that is not as popular, for a show that there's tons of different AMC is using this to rebrand AMC. AMC is using The Walking Dead to become something it never was before, you know? Before The Walking Dead and Breaking Bad and Mad Men, before they were creating original shows and doing all this other shit, they just used to show classic TV. I think that's what American Movie Classics, isn't that what AMC used to stand for? So they're using the popularity of The Walking Dead to grow up their brand, essentially, they would not just drop it because some ratings fell. No way in hell. The first thing you would see, budget cutbacks. When you start seeing that, then you can start to worry, but it's years down the road. Even if they decided to do budget cutbacks for season 8, I wouldn't even be worried they would get canceled until season 10 at the latest. And that's because of what happens. They decide to cut the budget first so they can make up for the loss in the revenue from the ratings. Because if the ratings drop, then they got to charge less for the commercials, or they make less, however the hell that works out. If that's the case, then they cut the budget. And then depending on the season that happens after that, it's just not as cut and dry as saying, because I know a lot of people said, oh, this show was just canceled out of nowhere. Those shows were struggling with ratings wise, and those shows also cost a lot of money to make. I've looked into a couple that I'm drawing a blank on, but I remember hearing that it's millions and millions for the season, and they're only bringing in, and I'm talking about dollars, and they're only bringing in you know, a fraction of what The Walking Dead. I think they're bringing in like, you know, 1 million, 2 million viewers, and they had invested in millions of dollars and stuff. So there's a real big difference between this and that. The Walking Dead is still doing good, even with the ratings. So if you're worried about it at all, it doesn't happen that fast with a show in the situation, in the spot that this show is in. It wouldn't happen like, oh, season 9 is canceled. It's just not going to happen like that. It would need something drastic, like, you know, 70% of the fans just lose interest in the show, in the comic, in the merchandise overnight for them, in my opinion, for them to seriously cancel this anytime soon. So it's not going to play out like that. Chances are it will be a slow, unfortunate death, an embarrassing slow death when The Walking Dead ever does die. First thing to go would be budget, then next thing to go would be actors, then you might see producers getting frustrated and writers and stuff like that. So you'll see the people behind the scenes, you'll see and hear news stories about problems, and it'll probably run its course for 3 whole seasons of problems, you know what I mean, before you get any news of cancellation. Maybe the stories, the writers change and the stories go to shit. It would be a progression. With a show like The Walking Dead, it would progress. Unfortunately, it would have that type of death. It wouldn't just be like, oh, season 9 doesn't exist. So I just wanted to bring that up because I see a lot of people talking about it, and a lot of people are messaging me with concerns that The Walking Dead could go anytime soon. And a lot of people are also thinking that Fear the Walking Dead, and they're a little angry that Fear the Walking Dead might be taken away from The Walking Dead. And one of my concerns in the past was that they would utilize some of the budget towards Fear. Now I know they wouldn't be like, oh, we're taking money over here and putting it over here, but in some aspect, since it is AMC that owns both Fear the Walking Dead and The Walking Dead, I did have that fear that in some way, shape, or form, they would do that, you know? And that's something that I don't want them to do. And I don't even know how that does work, but I kind of feel like it's not, that shouldn't be a worry. That's probably definitely not a worry. So for anyone who wants Fear the Walking Dead to leave so they can put that money towards The Walking Dead, I just don't think that money would, that's just not how it's set up. Again, I could be totally wrong. I haven't looked into any of that and how that works. I just don't believe that if they, you know, cut Fear off, they would take Fear's money and put it into The Walking Dead. I just don't see that being the system, how it's structured, you know? Anyway, Fear the Walking Dead is coming back in, what, 2 months? And in a week, about a week and a half, maybe sooner, I'm going to start posting my Season 8 videos for The Walking Dead. We're going to start with comic book material and kind of discussing what they could be bringing to the season. And then we have the more interesting, possibly the more interesting discussions with what could they put in the new season to fill up the entire season. If you guys want to start formulating some thoughts and opinions about that stuff, go ahead and do that. And as always, put your thoughts and opinions in that comment box. I'm done talking, so it's your turn.
Subscribe now.